Medusa, often portrayed as a monstrous creature with serpents for hair and a gaze that turns men to stone, has endured for centuries as a symbol of fear and evil. But beneath this terrifying exterior lies a story of sorrow, betrayal, and manipulation. Far from being a one-dimensional villain, Medusa's tale reveals deeper truths about power, victimhood, and how myths evolve to serve particular narratives. Her transformation from a beautiful maiden into a feared Gorgon was not born of malice, but of divine punishment, a cruel consequence of an assault she suffered within the sacred walls of a temple. This story begins in ancient Greece, where gods reigned with unchecked authority and mortal lives were subject to their whims. Medusa, once a devoted priestess of the goddess Athena, served with purity and dedication. Her beauty became legendary, attracting the attention of the god of the sea, Poseidon. What happened next in Athena's temple would seal Medusa's fate, not as a survivor, but as a symbol of punishment. The punishment she received, a grotesque transformation into a creature reviled by mortals, has long raised questions about justice and morality within mythology. But in ancient times, gods did not follow human codes of fairness. Their decisions often reflected their own pride and personal vendetta. Medusa's curse was a divine reaction, one that protected sacred space but ignored the trauma of the individual. Through the centuries, Medusa's image has been reshaped by artists, philosophers, and historians. From a feared monster to a misunderstood symbol of feminine rage and resilience, her myth offers layers of interpretation. The roots of her legend are found in ancient oral traditions, epic poetry, and classical texts, particularly the works of the Roman poet Ovid, whose Metamorphoses provides the most complete version of her story. In this video, we will follow Medusa's journey from her origin as a mortal maiden to her role as a powerful and tragic figure. We will explore the gods who influenced her destiny, Poseidon, Athena, and ultimately Perseus, the hero who ended her life. Each figure played a pivotal role in shaping the myth and the message it conveys. By returning to the oldest sources and removing modern assumptions, we can uncover the truth behind Medusa's legend. Was she a monster created by cruelty, or a victim immortalized by myth? Her legacy is more than a tale of horror. It is a mirror reflecting the values and contradictions of ancient Greek society. The maiden and the goddess. Before she became the feared Gorgon, Medusa was a mortal woman of extraordinary beauty. Her name derived from the ancient Greek word medine, meaning to protect or to guard, upholding rituals and maintaining the sanctity of the temple. Her beauty, especially her long, flowing hair, was spoken of across the cities of Greece. Poets and sculptors were captivated by her form, but she remained steadfast in her vows, untouched by vanity or desire. Her service to Athena was sincere, and for that, she was admired not only by mortals, but also watched closely by the gods, hinted at a role very different from the monstrous fate that awaited her. Known for his power and unpredictable nature, Poseidon often sought mortal women. When his desire turned to Medusa, he pursued her relentlessly. The temple, a place of divine purity, offered no protection against the will of a god. One day, in an act of violence, Poseidon forced himself upon Medusa, inside Athena's own sanctuary, but also a desecration of sacred ground. This defilement was not only a physical violation. Unlike her two immortal sisters, Steno and Euryale, Medusa was fully human. She lived in service to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, and served as a priestess in her temple, a sacred duty that demanded chastity and devotion above all. As a priestess, Medusa dedicated her life to honoring the goddess among the gods. One in particular became obsessed with her, Poseidon, the god of the sea. Athena's reaction was swift and merciless. Rather than punish Poseidon, her fellow Olympian, she turned her wrath upon Medusa. Gods protected their own, even when they committed atrocities. Mortals were left to bear the consequences. Athena, though a goddess of wisdom, upheld the sanctity of her temple over the suffering of her follower. Medusa's curse, then, was not only a transformation, but a symbol of divine injustice, a message to others about the cost of crossing boundaries set by the gods. The mortal priestess, despite being the victim, was transformed into a Gorgon, a creature with snakes for hair, a face so dreadful it turned anyone who looked upon it to stone. Her beauty was destroyed. Her humanity was lost. She was cast out, feared by all, and left to dwell in isolation. This punishment reveals a chilling truth about divine justice in Greek mythology. Medusa's fall from grace was not caused by her actions, but by her existence as a mortal in a world ruled by immortals. The curse of the Gorgon. Banished from society and stripped of her former life, Medusa entered a new and terrifying existence. Transformed by Athena's curse, her once beautiful hair turned into a writhing crown of venomous serpents. Figures of dread and horror in ancient Greek belief, they dwelled in a distant land. Early Greek vase paintings portrayed her as a grotesque creature with fangs and a wide, glaring mouth. Later representations softened her appearance, reflecting a tragic beauty beneath the monstrosity. Yet her curse remained consistent. Her gaze could not be met. This made Medusa a figure of paradox. She was feared, yet unable to control the very power that caused her isolation. Far from the known world, a barren wasteland where no mortal dared venture. In this desolate exile, Medusa existed as both prisoner and threat, cut off from the world but feared by it. Her skin lost its softness, her eyes burned with unnatural power, and her gaze became lethal. Anyone who dared to meet her eyes turned instantly to stone, not through choice or will, but as an automatic curse. The transformation was total. She was no longer seen as a woman, but as a monster. Unlike her immortal sisters, Stheno and Euryale, Medusa remained mortal, doomed to suffer and one day die. The trio became known as the Gorgons. The physical details of her form varied across artistic depictions. The symbolism of her curse was profound. In Greek culture, eyes were not just sensory organs but channels of power. Sailors feared her lair, and warriors spoke of her as a test of courage, made monstrous, not by her choices, but by the gods who ruled above. Over time, she came to symbolize more than just danger. She was a reminder of divine wrath, mortal suffering, and the inescapable consequences of power misused. The ability to turn others. Two stones suggested not only magical force but also the terrifying potential of female rage when wronged. In punishing Medusa, Athena had created a creature who embodied terror itself, not just physical danger, but the fear of female agency and the consequences of divine neglect. Though exiled, Medusa became a figure whispered about in myths and legends. Her curse defined her in myth, but it also concealed the truth of her tragedy. Beneath the terrifying image was a woman condemned, Perseus, and the slaying of Medusa. The final chapter of Medusa's life is often the most widely known, her beheading by the hero Perseus. Yet behind this heroic tale lies a complex web of divine intervention, mortal ambition, and mythological politics. To rid himself of the youth, he demanded a seemingly impossible gift, the head of Medusa. This request was not random. She offered Perseus a polished shield, so reflective that it allowed him to see Medusa without meeting her eyes directly. Hermes, messenger of the gods, gave him a curved blade sharp enough to pierce even a Gorgon's neck. From the nymphs, Perseus received winged sandals for flight, a magic sack to carry Medusa's head, and Hades' helm of invisibility. With this arsenal, Perseus was not acting alone. He was an agent of the Olympians, executing a sentence passed long ago. Medusa's deadly gaze had turned even the bravest men into statues. She was a living weapon, and no one had survived an attempt to kill her. Accepting the challenge, Perseus set out on his perilous journey, guided by gods who had their own interests in the outcome. Perseus, son of Zeus and the mortal Dino, was destined to become one of Greece's most celebrated heroes. His journey began not out of glory, but as a trap set by King Polydex, who sought to dispose of him. Polydex, desiring Dino, feared Perseus as an obstacle. Athena, whose wrath had cursed Medusa, provided divine aid. When he reached Medusa's lair, she lay sleeping among her immortal sisters. Only she could be killed. Using the reflective shield to guide his strike, Perseus approached silently and severed her head in a single blow. The head became a weapon he later used to petrify enemies, including the sea monster threatening Andromeda. Eventually, he offered the head to Athena, who mounted it on her shield, the Aegis, as a symbol of protection and power. From her blood sprang to mythological beings, the winged horse Pegasus and the warrior Chrysaor, born fully formed from her body. Her story did not end with her beheading. Instead, her image became eternal, wielded by those who once condemned her. These offspring, fathered by Poseidon during the assault, emerged only in death. Perseus placed Medusa's head in the magic sack and fled. Though her body was lifeless, her gaze remained potent. Medusa's death marked her transition from feared monster to divine emblem. Symbols, legacy, and misinterpretations. After her death, Medusa's story did not fade into obscurity. On the contrary, her image and legacy grew even more powerful. The severed head of Medusa, known as the Gorgonian, became a widespread symbol in ancient Greek culture. It was engraved on armor, shields, temple walls, and coins. To the Greeks, it served not only as a warning but also as protection, a paradoxical emblem that could repel evil by embodying it. This transformation, from a victim to a shield, reflects how mythology can distort suffering into power through symbolism. Athena, who once cursed Medusa, adopted her visage as part of her divine identity. The Gorgonian, placed at the center of her shield, the aegis, represented the terror she could invoke against her enemies. Ironically, the face of the woman she punished became a symbol of divine might and defense. Over time, the fearsome aspects of Medusa's myth began to be overshadowed by the power her image represented. Throughout antiquity, interpretations of Medusa evolved. Philosophers like Socrates and later Roman thinkers viewed her as a symbol of rational fear, the type of terror that perilous thought. Artists began to portray her with more human features, depicting sorrow or beauty beneath the monstrous traits. This shift reflected changing cultural views on power, femininity, and injustice. In later centuries, Medusa re-emerged as a symbol in literature and political art. During the Renaissance, artists such as Caravaggio and Leonardo da Vinci painted her with a blend of horror and tragedy. In modern times, feminist scholars have revisited Medusa's myth, interpreting her as a figure of repressed rage. Now speaks across centuries as a figure of tragic power, warning, and remembrance. Her gaze no longer a weapon, but a statement. A woman destroyed and then demonized for a crime committed against her. Her transformation has been read not just as punishment, but as an embodiment of the fear powerful men felt toward a woman who could not be controlled. These reinterpretations are not distortions, but reflections of how mythology adapts to the values of each era. In Medusa's case, they reveal how a once feared figure can become a voice for the silenced, a symbol of resistance, and a mirror of societal fears. Her legacy is not simple. It is layered with meanings imposed by gods, heroes, artists, and scholars. Medusa, once dismissed as a monster. In later centuries, Medusa re-emerged as a symbol in literature and political art. During the Renaissance, artists such as Caravaggio and Leonardo da Vinci painted her with a blend of horror and tragedy. In modern times, feminist scholars have revisited Medusa's myth, interpreting her as a figure of repressed rage. Now speaks across centuries as a figure of tragic power, warning, and remembrance. Her gaze no longer a weapon, but a statement. A woman destroyed and then demonized for a crime committed against her. Her transformation has been read not just as punishment, but as an embodiment of the fear powerful men felt toward a woman who could not be controlled. These reinterpretations are not distortions, but reflections of how mythology adapts to the values of each era. In Medusa's case, they reveal how a once feared figure can become a voice for the silenced, a symbol of resistance, and a mirror of societal fears. Her legacy is not simple. It is layered with meanings imposed by gods, heroes, artists, and scholars. Medusa, once dismissed as a monster. The truth behind the stone Medusa story, once told only as a cautionary myth of horror, is now understood as a layered narrative shaped by divine politics, human suffering, and cultural transformation. Her image, fixed in stone by both myth and metaphor, was never truly still. It evolved with time, revealing deeper truths beneath the surface of ancient legend. From her origin as a mortal woman devoted to Athena, Medusa was never meant to be a monster. She was a victim of power, abused, violated by Poseidon, and betrayed by the very goddess she served. Her transformation into a Gorgon was not justice, but a divine punishment designed to erase the memory of desecration. Her isolation and fearsome powers were not chosen, but forced upon her by gods who operated above morality. She did not attack the world. She hid from it, protecting herself with the only weapon she had left, her gaze. Perseus's role, though celebrated as heroic, armed with tools from the gods and protected by their magic, he killed Medusa not as an act of personal valor but as a mission ordered by Olympus. Even in death, Medusa served others, her head used as a weapon, her image claimed by Athena, her legacy repurposed to fit others' victories. But as history moved forward, Medusa escaped the control of her myth. She is both human and beast, victim and weapon, mortal and mythic. Her gaze, once feared for its deadly force, now confronts the viewer with questions. Who defines monsters? Who tells their stories? And what truths lie behind the legends we inherit? They saw a symbol of feminine rage, of injustice turned to strength, of beauty turned against itself. Her severed head no longer warned only of fear. It became a shield against oppression, a reminder of how the powerful rewrite the stories of the powerless. The enduring power of Medusa's myth lies in its contradictions. To understand Medusa is to see past the stone, to recognize not only the cruelty that shaped her, but the strength she came to represent. In the end, Medusa is not simply a tale of punishment or revenge. She is a mirror, reflecting the fears, failings, and complexities of the gods and mortals who made her what she became.